All right, welcome back to Blue City Reviews. Thanks once again for watching. I took a couple days off after the passing of Richard Donner, just because. But we had watched a bunch of movies, my fiance and I. I categorize all of my DVDs, thousands of DVDs, autobiographically. And my fiance has always said that that's bullshit. There's no way you'll know where anything is. But I went upstairs and blindly just grabbed three movies off the rack, and surprise, they were all from the year 1992. They're sort of all deal with psychological aspects, and I watched them all probably in the same month. I got White Sands, Jennifer 8, and California. All thrillers, little bit of action, but none of these are driven by action or gratuitous violence or huge set pieces. These are more about the evil that men do and the consequences of it. Coming off of the 80s, I think people, well, especially me, but lots of others were burned out on the whole Rambo, Commando, nonstop that shit. And you can kind of see that even with like the action heroes. You know, we moved away from sort of Schwarzenegger and Stallone, who even started experimenting more with comedies. They'd come back to action later, obviously. But in the early 90s, we were sort of moving away from that Rambo-esque patriotic, gotta go back and get them type of thing. And you know, the action stars were like Steven Seagal and Brandon Lee, and you were getting into other territory. And as an offshoot of that, you had these thrillers that would come out with not a whole lot of action, but with some really, really great acting talent. And they were kind of this weird combination of the 80s and the 70s, like the best of the 70s and, you know, the best of the 80s. You know, you kind of they were kind of getting back to doing some decent films that weren't driven by bullets and explosions. Anyway, today I'm talking White Sands from director Roger Donaldson. I'm sorry, still thinking of Richard Donner probably. Directed by that hit me hard. Roger Donaldson, who most of my friends know from Species, which I fucking hate. But No Way Out, I liked. Did he do Dante's Peak? He did a bunch of other stuff that was interesting to watch. He did one called 13 Days that I thought was kind of interesting. He's done some great films. I loved this as a kid. I remember seeing this and just thinking, "Wow, this is interesting." You know, I like the way everybody's kind of playing each other with these psychological jabs. It reminds me a little bit of something like Michael Mann's Miami Vice, or not the TV show, the film that came out in 2006, or some of the other stuff Michael Mann would do, where everybody's kind of playing each other with mind games and sexuality and shit like that. The stars William Dafoe, Mickey Rourke, Samuel L. Jackson, and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. Also, you get some hilarious dialogue in the first act from Emmett Walsh, who reminds me a lot of my grandma or grandfather, a little bit too much of my grandfather Meredith in this movie. Rest in peace, sir. Now, this is one of those a guy finds a suitcase filled with money, and there's the dilemma movies. This is one of those movies, like No Country for Old Men and a thousand other fucking movies. What do you do when you find a suitcase full of cash? In this case, it's a small town sheriff, kind of a happily married sheriff, married to Mimi Rogers, who wouldn't be happily married, right? But he discovers this body in the desert. Beautiful cinematography, by the way, from Peter Menzies Jr. He discovers a body in the desert that's filled with cash, and he eventually locates a phone number, gets a hold of the people that the assassinated individual was doing business with. He sets them up to exchange the money to try and bust him, right? He's a small town cop looking for his big break. Instead, goes sideways. He gets robbed of the money. Some crooked feds slip in, played by Samuel L. Jackson. A couple of people, but Samuel L. Jackson leads them, and they kind of rope him into this undercover sting where he has to, in order to get the money back, the Fed's money, he has to go undercover with Mickey Rourke, who's a scary individual in this, and play these criminals. And we find out that pretty much everybody in this movie is crooked, including the hero here, William Dafoe, who, I mean, you know, ends up cheating on his wife and really doesn't do so many commendable things. Now, this is a movie I really enjoyed as a kid. I watched it again, obviously, recently, and I didn't like it quite as much, mainly because of we're supposed to get behind William Dafoe's character, but he's a scumbag who leaves his beautiful wife at home in order to do these really fucking dangerous things that he should not be doing. He should not be screwing around with his money. He should not be screwing around with Mickey Rourke's character. What makes the movie interesting, what makes it worth watching, are the three leads, William Dafoe, Mickey Rourke, Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. They're believable in these roles. Lots of times you see people as, you know, the CIA or small town cops, and you think, yeah, fuck you. You are not that person. You're checking your watch to get home and eat your sushi and sleep with the supermodels on Hollywood Hills. But here, you know, Mickey Rourke is Mickey Rourke. William Dafoe had worked with some of the best directors in the planet at this point, as had Mary. And, you know, she was seasoned, especially after The Abyss, which I'm pretty sure came after that, did this? Boy, I'm not sure, actually, now that I say that. But she definitely done Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves by this point. So she was a pro. And these three are believable as kind of these film noir characters wrapped up in this big twisted plot where everybody's trying to get rich, but you know the majority of them are going to end up either behind bars or dead. Now, Samuel L. Jackson is the most memorable part about this movie, and I will always love Samuel L. Jackson. Who doesn't? He's pretty much in every fucking movie ever made. But this took me back to a time when he was really acting. Not that he doesn't act now, not that he's just coasting, although sometimes I think he is. He's really playing a role here. He's being very physical. You can tell he's fighting for his next job. You can tell he's thinking, man, if somebody sees this, I can get to the next thing and the next. He's really working here. And I don't want to give away the whole thing, but there are some twists with his character, and the ending hit me because of his performance. I mean, a lot about this movie works, the score, the cinematography, the direction, the performances, but Samuel L. Jackson comes out on top, and you can definitely see why he became a star. But what hinders this thing is the script. I know in this isn't exactly film noir, but it kind of is that type of subject matter where you don't really like any of the characters. And here, I don't think it really works, specifically because there's some plot twists, especially late in the game, like the last 15 minutes, where you're like, what? That dude's CIA? Well, but that doesn't... And then you go back and piece it together. I don't know. I'd have to watch it again, but I can definitely see why this has sort of fallen under the radar and why not many people talk about it or watch it anymore. It's very, very so on a storytelling level. Now, if you watch it for the performances, you're not going to have a bad time. So, White Sands, one of those thrillers from the early 90s that time sort of forgot. But, you know, I'm glad I own it. And I might watch it once or twice more before I shuffle off this mortal coil. All right? Thanks once again for watching Blue City Reviews. I will talk to you soon. That was White Sands.